Good evening, Mr. Hudson.
Hello, sir.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm good.
Oh, by the way, guys, welcome all to My Life, My Music. The week that was, we're doing this podcast today, Al, on the 12th of March, because it marks 50 years from your debut, your England debut, on the 12th of March, 1975. Where have those 50 years gone, Al?
Well, I think when you say that, it's like there's certain things in experiences in life that are so clear. I suppose it doesn't matter whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, but I can still remember everything. I think because of how it all happened, how with the band, English band, and then Revy getting the job and knowing he wouldn't pick me, and I thought the other day I was in two squads before the German game, and I weren't even on the bench. So he had no, and then on the Saturday before, I played against Man City. We beat them 4-0 at home, and I made one, scored a couple, scored one, and I just turned up on the Sunday, and he picked the team, and I was in it. Now I don't know whether it was. I think it was probably a lot of pressure from the media, and he picked Malcolm as well. And he probably thought that I couldn't hack it at that level. And he's actually said that since I've had that game. He said he had a problem with consistency. Well, why pick me in the first place? It's different if I played badly in that game. He never picked me again after, although I played against Cyprus. But the Cyprus one was a nothing match, really. It was a European Championship game, but it was nothing. It was you could have got someone off the street to play in that game, But I can see it all clearly, from the squad before. Because what I'd done, Paul, I think I've mentioned before, is when I got banned and then I left for Stoke, and he kind of signed me, Tony, and it had nothing to do. He never mentioned England, although he was banging the drum to get me back in the team because he believed in that. He never once mentioned it. It was all about playing for him, and that's. I just got England out of my system altogether. And it weren't until he got the sack, Ramsey, and brought Revy in, and then all of a sudden things kind of changed, but they didn't change for me. I was still wounded, really, from what had gone on from the injury, missing 70, and then being banned for being injured. That should be looked at, because there's three of us that didn't make the trip. Colin Todd was one. Colin Todd didn't go because he didn't want to go, but he was honest. Malcolm MacDonald didn't want to go, and he got a letter from his doctor saying he had a bad back. He didn't have a bad back because I spoke to Malcolm, and he said no. He said that was the one injury in them days you couldn't detect.
Yep.
So I was the only one that was really. No, Colin Todd was honest, but I was honest. I had a bad ankle, and anyway, 2 out of 3 got. Malcolm got away, but it's got 3. So the point I'm trying to make, really, you'd be better off with an example like that. You'd be better off just lying.
Yeah.
It tends to be honest in the game. It kind of rebound on me being honest with Ramsey, and for some known reason, I think he had been knighted not long before that, and I think it was, you can't refuse me kind of thing. But anyway, and it leads up, and then it was accumulation of things, and then we moved on to obviously the new year. Stoke were going great, we were going great, and me and Greenough were playing brilliantly. So were the team, and I don't understand how Jimmy weren't called into the squad as well as me. But he'd already, that was obvious because he'd already sold Jimmy from Leeds to Birmingham, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. But Jeff Salmons, who was another integral part of that Stoke City team in 1975, he did get a call up, but he got caught in a lift in it at 4 o'clock in the morning, and Revy didn't like that. But that was when he said my international career's over before it began. We were in the room that night. Yeah, you finished a few national careers, didn't you, Al?
Oh, mate.
But if we're looking at when you joined Stoke City, I mean, you were one of the great midfield players that just come onto the scene in 1969-70 season. You moved from Chelsea, of course, in the January 74. In that first season, the 73-74 season, you played 18 league games. In the season after, which you made your England debut, 74-75 season, you were an ever-present there for Stoke City. You were running Stoke City. You were the greatest midfield player in England at that time. It's quite amazing that it took Revie so long to actually give you your debut, and he gave you the debut in the middle of the park with both Colin Bell and Alan Ball. There was a couple of other debutants, Steve Whitworth for Leicester City and Ian Gillard from QPR. But you were the king of England, really, Al, just waiting to be crowned.
Well, there is now, there's plenty of players that can play in midfield, but I think the game's changed when we play, because I regard myself as an inside forward, as was the likes of Tony Curry. I've said all along that I wonder what it'd have been like that night against the Germans if I'd have played with Alan Ball and Tony Curry as well. As good a player as Colin Bell was, it would have turned into like an Olay session, wouldn't it? They just wouldn't have got the ball that night. But he had when he picked me, as we've always spoke, he had no intention of keeping me in the team. He thought I was going to foul, and it was a good night, God, and you could tell on his face when we come in the dressing room after the game that he was choked, Yeah. Even if he put a bit of a front on and said well played, but he didn't. And I walked away. I was delighted just to see him like that, but I'd done it all wrong. As I said, I should have went upstairs, which I did. My dad was upstairs in the long bar, and he had paint all over him. He just come from work, and I suppose these people we've been talking to thought, oh, he is your son. Didn't believe it, But I should have, if my dad had turned around to me that night and said, well, you prove your point, don't play no more. And I should have done it. Because when he finally did get rid of me, and then we went to Hungary, me and Jimmy, as two overage players, and you wouldn't believe the way he spoke to me and Jimmy one day. He really ran us through and I thought, what am I doing? It was like a school teacher talking to kids, two little kids. He knew he'd get away with Jimmy, but and I went through that situation with Alan Ball with him. The night with he said, I heard you've been out and he had the cab driver, get back in touch with him. That was the kind of man he was. He wasn't. Football's supposed to be an entertainment and enjoy every minute of it, but you just couldn't with that man. It was. So that basically that's the most pleasurable thing about on that Wednesday night, to actually having done it. And I said to the press boys the day before, I said, at last I've got a game. I said, I can prove I can play at this level, which is, I've been waiting 5 years to do it since 1970, and I'm going to show I can do it. So, and I did. I backed my words up, but it rebounded on the manager, and then I end up taking, like I did with Ramsey, I got a 3-year ban off him. Then I got kicked out by Revie, and he ends up going to work for the Arabs, and I'm on the scrap heap again,
And then Ron Greenwood called you up against Brazil, but you was in the pub. I mean, it was pretty much like carry on England. But going back to that night on the 12th of March, 1975, what was it like being in the dressing room? You're going to make your first appearance. You're getting your first cap for England. The bell's gone. You're going onto that Wembley turf. You've lined up the national anthem. What was running through your mind, Al? What was your thought process on that night?
Well, to be perfectly honest, mate, I was playing so. It's like anything else. When you're playing bad, you've lost your confidence. I was playing so well for my club. I feared nothing at that time. It wouldn't matter if it had been a club game against the top team in the world or the world champions. I was just playing at the top of on the top of my game, and I didn't fear anyone. I was very, very fortunate that night that Alan Ball was playing, because I knew I had an ally on the field that I knew I'd get a lot of the ball. Whereas in many England teams, I don't think you do get much of the ball, because I don't think you'd see many games like the West Germany games where the midfield players had so much of the ball.
Yeah.
You know, and I never even mentioned Colin Bell, but he must have been watching me in Bawley, and thinking, oh my God, and he was a terrific player. But I always say that, every time I got it, I looked for him, and every time he got it, he looked for me. And that was because we were winning. I mean, they had a decent team out of the Germans. Otherwise, Beckenbauer wouldn't have played, would he? If they was a sender weakened team. But no, I just couldn't wait to get out. I can't remember anything. I can remember Revy going round and what he does at his club. He rubs people's calves and all that, and he thought that was what he was all about. Which is, if I don't have it on a Saturday, why do I want it when I'm playing for England? I thought, what's all this about? And then we got up, the bell went, we walked out, and then he said about, remember what they'd done to us in the war and all that. And I thought, well, is this the way football should be played? We got to go out and think about playing it. And then after the game, me, Alan Ball, Malcolm, and 3 Germans come out to the nightclub. They didn't leave us till 5 a.m. So, these are the people that we went to war with, and we've just played against that. But Revy's, do you think you can actually talk to footballers, and does he think we're dim enough to think that that's going to try and motivate you to up your performance because they done us in the war? I weren't even born.
Yeah.
It's a sad indictment on anyone doing that, but at the end of the day, it all turned out in my favour, which rebounded on me again. Although if I'd have had a nightmare, I'd have hated. I think the satisfaction I probably got out of it is that I was playing so well and I kept my form up, and I didn't give him the opportunity to say, that is why I don't pick you, So it was what a lot of people don't realise is 50 years on, you have to live with that for 50 years. It's not the not playing it. It's to actually hear the England squad names week after week after that, and you're not in it, and inferior players are put in front of you, people he liked, was like, it doesn't seem right. It's not in the real world. It's not, and you shouldn't be. Football is not all about picking your favourites. Football is all about picking your best players, your best 11, and that's why England have never really done any good. And I've got to be fair. I'm doing a thing with Letizia in the morning.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it's about Thomas Tuchel taking over. And I really do think he's going to get the job done. I really do. There won't be no favourites, I see what he done at Chelsea with a pretty average team. And they won the Champions League, and they were average. And I know what he could do, see what he done in Germany.
PSG as well.
Yeah, PSG.
Got them to the final.
This fella, and I've seen him. He's been here all the game. He will pick the best 11 for England. I said to my son yesterday, I said, I think England will win something. Will definitely win a major trophy in the next 4 to 6 years.
Again, it's all
not only will they win one. While they got this fella, and funnily enough, I wanted to do it with Matt because I'd done a night with him last year, didn't I? And he disagreed with me. He said, I think the English manager should always be English, but that's not an argument. That's just that's someone's opinion on it.
What's your opinion now?
Well, say you haven't got an Englishman that's good enough.
Yeah.
you got to bring in some. I mean, the Premier League and everything else has changed. Our game was on its knees before they started bringing all the foreigners in.
Yeah.
You've only got to look at Arsenal now. I remember having an argument with Ray Parlour once. He was saying about Bergkamp being the best Arsenal player ever, and I said, well, for me, it was Brady, and as regards Alan Ball, and it's all gone foreign, isn't it? Continental, Wenger came over. You imagine Arsenal, if Wenger hadn't came over, they were in trouble. They've gone from people like Terry Neal,
yep,
to Arsene Wenger.
I think that Bruce Rioch, your friend.
Bruce Rioch, I didn't really want to mention it.
I mean, there was an incident again. That was March. It was March the 24th, 1976. Charlie dislocated his shoulder, and Rioch broke your leg. But he gloated, didn't he? Many years after in Seattle, which puts a bad taste in your mouth.
Well, it's breaking my leg at Derby. I mean, he did it intentionally, but it was my fault for turning my back on him.
Yeah.
But because my father always told me, don't ever receive the ball with your back to him, turn side on or whatever. And I only ever had 2 bad injuries for doing that. And the other time I got run over, So, although on the football field, a little bit different from crossing the road. But, it's we've kind of moved on from the Tuchel, from the game against the Germans to Thomas Tuchel. But that's how the game has gone. If someone was to say, do you want Don Revie in charge or Thomas Tuchel? Well, they can have an opinion at the moment, but we're doing it now because we won't know until the next 6 months, will we? How he handles the thing. Even his first squad is going to be the most interesting squad of all time. Who actually thinks he's been around? He knows all. He knows everybody plays here because he's been a manager here. But he's gone round. He's seen all the youngsters. He's seen what's what. If he don't know his best squad by now, he never will. And this is his first, So we will know as soon as he picked his first squad. And basically, that's why I said to Matt, because he picks his team next week, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah.
We
got that international weekend coming up quite shortly. Infamous photograph with you and the Kaiser, Franz Beckenbauer. You're giving him the bad finger. If you want it, come and get it. I mean, that was just, again, an Alan Hudson, the maverick, the player. To think that in your first game, you're doing that to Franz Beckenbauer, that shows some right balls and confidence, doesn't it, Al?
Well, I didn't nose him because he had his number on his back of the shirt. It was raining heavy, and it was. I must say, it was. I couldn't have been lucky. For once in my life, I couldn't have been lucky because they were my conditions. It'd been raining for about 2 days.
Yeah.
I remember it so well because I watched Cheltenham in the afternoon, as I'm doing this week, and. It just everything fell into place, and I was so confident, especially when the rain come down, because with the bad ankle, that I thought this is tailor made for me tonight, And the other thing that was tailor made for me was the 2 kids that you mentioned earlier on who playing fullback.
Yeah,
they had never played before, and I think I said then before the game, look, to get rid of any nerves, just get it into me and Bawley, and we'll do the rest, and you just make your runs or whatever you do. They're both good players. But a debut, everybody needs a bit of help. But the only help I had, but it wasn't verbally, it was knowing that he was next to me because, I see Bawley play when I was a Fulham supporter. I see him play for Blackpool. I followed him all along, and I knew what kind of player he was, and I knew that's why I went to Arsenal. But when I got there, I was told that I was there to replace him. So that was another nightmare. But that weren't in March, was it?
No, it was in January 13th.
Yeah, another January. I always moved in January, yeah.
It was either just before Christmas or just after Christmas, but generally it was January. No, I think it was December the 13th. This was to Arsenal just before Christmas. Al, let's go back. You have referenced your injury, and that injury to this very day still hampers you, even just going down the road for a loaf of bread or a bottle of milk. And it happened again. March was a very, very strange time for you. It's arguably your worst time in football and your best time in football. But the worst one was on the 30th of March 1970 when you played against West Bromwich Albion for Chelsea. You got beat 3-1. But you take up the story. A ball's dropping to you. What happened next?
It weren't. I remember it was Easter Monday again, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Mm.
It was. I mean, we were going on a great run. We just got to the cup final. I was looking forward to. It was my first season. I was looking forward to the final, and ball came down. It weren't much of a game at West Brom. We weren't playing all that well. We'd just been beaten 5 at Everton on the Saturday before. I think Bawley again done it. And I remember with nothing going on, it weren't as if anyone was around me. It just the ball come drop down as if it dropped. I suppose I say it dropped down to the sky because I was in total shock when I hit the floor. I knew it went straight through my head. Wembley's gone.
Yeah.
But I never for a moment dreamt that I'd miss Mexico as well. It was like a double whammy. And there was no one near me. I think Asa Hartford might have been 10 yards away. Mm. But it wasn't. The reason I say that because it wasn't enough for me to take my eye off the ball and my eye off, where it was going to land. It was just a freak accident of a hole in that pitch. And, when players complain today, they could never do that on our pitches today. That could never have happened. But that's why ever since I've always liked the ground's very heavy, very muddy, because obviously there's, like you say, I walk down the shop and I have to watch the paving stones and all that, so in case I go over on it. That was probably, I didn't realise how bad it was, how it was going to be until I actually sat on the bench at Wembley and watched the game. And then even worse, I think I went he put me in a hospital which weren't going to work for a week before they played the replay, because I think they put the replay back for 2 weeks for some unknown reason. I think Leeds might have been playing in the European Trophy or something.
Yeah. Got Celtic in the semi-final, hadn't they?
Yeah. So we done a double whammy on them, didn't we? Jock Stein beat them and then we did. So, but Manchester United was Old Trafford was probably the most hurtful, apart from going down the hole, the most hurtful thing at all. And it was, and then it was summer. I went away. I used to go runs along the beach every morning, and I couldn't do none of that. I couldn't, it kind of changed my life completely. And then, I think if I'd have stayed at Chelsea another year or two, I think I'd have just drifted out the game because my form got worse. Mentally, I was totally gone, and I think because of the club weren't helping. If I'd have been at Stoke and that happened, Tony would have had me into the office and spoke to me about it. How can we help you? You're obviously having a bad time. It ain't because, you can't play. You don't become a bad player overnight. And that was it. And that was my whole trouble at Chelsea at the time. All right, we won the Cup Winners' Cup the year later, which I'd done well in when we beat Real Madrid. And the following year we got the final and played Stoke. And if we'd have won that, it'd have been 3 trophies in 3 years. And we should have won the Cup Winners' Cup again, but we got knocked out on a away goal by a team that we'd have beat 99 times out of 100. So it was, I think what I'm trying to say is, although when I went to Stoke, I was only 23, and I've played, got the 2-3 finals, it's not like today when they had the Champions League and they're playing it, and it seems like they're playing in Europe every week.
Yeah.
But, it's where you could have gone, which is, especially when your performances are not up to scratch, you think, and you can't play on hard fields. You praying for rain on a Friday night and that kind of thing. It's disturbing. And then it became that everybody knows you like a drink. I was brought up around the corner in the King's Road, and nightlife was great, although I worked hard and I overcame that. But drinking became not so much a pleasure, really. It was more, for the other reason. You see how people go off the rails and for certain reasons. And that was my biggest problem. There's nothing worse than playing so badly in front of a big crowd, and you can't do much about it. If it had been in the modern game, it couldn't happen today. You'd be seen, you'd be flown into the country or where they could fix you. But that's the way it was then. But I still think there's no excuse for management to overlook that.
Yeah, they can either make you or break you.
Yeah, and same thing, Paul, is like the Ramsey thing with the ban.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have told me over the phone that you'll take the consequences. He should have said, well, turn up at the airport, we'll have a meeting for half hour and come along and don't play, and we'll get the doctors to look at you. But let's give you a medical because you're 21 and we need you for the next few years. Let's sort out your injury. But it was
it was chaotic, wasn't it? They didn't have physios in them days. They didn't understand the sports injuries. At Stoke City, your doctor was a gynecologist. You never had a medical when you joined Arsenal. You couldn't make it up, could you?
Well, when I got injured at Stoke, I had to send my missus to him.
And even when you broke your leg, the physio said, didn't he? Well, the acting physio, you'd be all right the weekend. But broke my leg. Yeah. Well, going back to that injury, I mean, you went to Harley Street, you tried everything. Okay, the World Cup was finished. The Wembley was finished. But the World Cup, you would have been the youngest player to have played for England in a World Cup tournament, and the final was on your 19th birthday. If England would have got there, and again, if only England could have got there, because there's an argument that the team in 1970 was better than the team that won the World Cup in 1966, wasn't it?
I think their performances in 70 were better than 66. The opposition was different. They played away from home. They had the weather to put up with. They had Germany where they wanted them, and Ramsey messed up. They played well against Brazil, in particular Bobby Moore. They were very, they were better than 66. There's no doubt about that, because, and people forget when they played in 66. If they hadn't sent Rattin off in the quarterfinal, I think, it may have been a different thing. I can't. In them situations, you imagine if he'd have sent Alan Bull off or Bobby Moore or Bobby Charlton off, we would have been stuffed, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. Going back to the March 12th on 75, what happened on March the 13th, 1975, after you'd actually got home with drinking to the small hours with some of your German counterparts? What was Thursday like, Al? Because you was preparing them for a top of the table clash at the baseball ground on the Saturday against Derby. So what was Thursday like, mate? Because there's the infamous picture of you with the England shirt, the number 10, over you while you're asleep on your mum's settee.
Well, I got in because it was down in London. I couldn't go back to Stoke that night. I was in a club till about 7 in the morning with Bally and these Germans. So the Germans went about 5. they got out called the Candy Boss, and I left there. I got home about 9, and our prefab was, my uncles were there, and all. It was a celebration time, so we went round the pub on the Embankment, and we were drinking champagne and whatever in there, as if we'd just won the World Cup or something like that, But it's just you're on such a high that, and it was personal. It wasn't. You showed that you could do. I think I proved a lot of people wrong as well. I've done it when I went to Stoke. Even the journalists in Stoke, I've spoke to them since, and they thought I was walking into a minefield. They couldn't see that working, but that's what football's all about. It's about proving them wrong. And then I got. I left my two uncles. Went back to prefab, obviously, and I was worn out. I just fell on them. The fella came round. He said, "Can I take his photo?" He said, "Well, there he is there." So they just threw a shirt over me and took the photo. So anyway, I woke up. I remember waking up and what day is it, kind of thing. And I said to my dad, "Come on, get ready." He said, "What?" I said, "You're coming back to Stoke with me because we're playing Derby on Saturday." I said, "You can go to Derby from Stoke." So we went up back to Stoke that night, went in the local pub up there Thursday night, and trained Friday. And at Derby, they actually won I think they won the league that year. Was it the year after?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I put on a performance that day, which was better than the one at Wembley on that pitch. And I remember a fella come out and he said to me, "Talk about your performance on Wednesday night against the Germans." I says, "What? Didn't you watch the game today?" He said, "It wasn't about the last game." I said, "Your Derby radio. You should talk about the game today." And I just walked away. Mm. But we were superb against Derby. We beat them. So that's what can happen when you're on the top of your game and you're so high on confidence. I mean, if I'd done that 2 years earlier when I was playing for Chelsea and went out after a game on a Thursday and then went out to Thursday night, I mean, I might have been thrown on the scrap heap, really. This was the two levels of being high and being low. I remember sitting in the Derby, the hotel on the station there, at Derby, and we sat round before the game, and they put all the highlights of the West Germany game on. All the lads sat round, and the players in our team that weren't too fond of me.
Yes,
so I had to get out. I had to get out and walk out. So that was that. But
it was a bit different, that dressing room. At Chelsea, it was a band of brothers, but at Stoke City, it wasn't like that. You did have quite a few enemies, people that literally didn't like you in that dressing room, and to this day, still don't. It's quite incredible. But that pitch at the baseball ground, I mean, pitches in the 70s could be a little bit sandy, a little bit like with no grass and just complete mud. This was like a cow patch that you was playing on. And how you played some great football on that pitch that day is incredible. And Jimmy Greenoff's goal, where you backheel the ball to Jeff Salmons, puts in a brilliant first-time cross to Greenoff, and Greenoff meets it on the volley, don't they, far post. I mean, that was just poetry on motion on just a terrible pitch.
Well, you see, I laugh when I see modern games. Sometimes I go to the odd game at Chelsea, and I hear people making excuses for people that, miss chances and can't pass it 10 yards and all that. And these are on pitches that are like carpets.
Yeah.
We were doing things on them pitches. All right, we didn't know the difference, but how can you make excuses for these people? It's ridiculous. But
and what was the training sessions like at England? You and Bawley used to have a bit of a ball, didn't you? And your five-a-sides. What is there any song that evokes memories of those times playing five-a-side with Alan Ball?
Well, I've got one written down here, Magic.
And
By Pilot.
Pilot, yeah, Scottish band. Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, well,
Outfitting.
absolutely. I mean, and it was magic. We had a great five-a-side team, didn't we? In those days at England. Shame that Stan Bowles and Frank and all the boys wasn't there that night. But you did have training sessions with those boys, the Maverick players. And unfortunately, one session, Revy told you all that you didn't figure in his plans.
Well, I remember it was after we had a 5 or 6 aside, and strange you mentioned that we were actually picked our own teams, and there was me, Bawley, Stan, and Frank, and Tony Curry, I think, and it was just embarrassing, you know.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I weren't. I've never got this. He took 3 or 4 of the boys to one side and told them they weren't in his plans. But he never did that with me for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because he knew I was one of those people who would just start screaming and hollering about it and going to the newspapers or whatever. Because I think that was why have them in the squad if they don't figure in your plans. It just doesn't make sense. You know, it's just. I suppose I got spoilt when I went to Stoke. That he done everything humanly possible to make everybody feel at home and want to be happy every day, happy in your training, happy in your football. Didn't really care what you done from Monday to Friday. And if you had a problem, you could knock on his door. And he was a total. He was like a gentleman come second father. And then you come away from him and you are faced with a manager that just, I don't know. I don't think he ever spoke to me. I don't think he ever said hello.
Yeah.
He never done anything. It was so that kind of tells you straight away I shouldn't be here. It's, and even more so, I suppose I was so high after the German game that I didn't think about packing up. But I most certainly should have packed up. I know that. I don't know. I was only 24, but I think that would have been the only way to make a statement, you know. And the press would have asked, why are you packing up? I said, because with people like that in managing our team. And, I think today, if I'd have had like an agent, a good agent or a manager, off-field manager, I think, and he sat down with me and said, what do you think? Although they would have wanted me to stay in the England team because they earn more money out here. I think if someone would have turned around to me, or my dad would have turned around to me that night after the game and said, I think you should pack up, playing for England now. Just concentrate on playing for Stoke, which I did. But I did it only because I had no option.
Yeah.
But Stoke was always my priority, and playing for Tony was always my priority. And I never felt that way about Chelsea, about playing for Dave or nothing like that. It was probably playing for the Rat Pack, that we were like, I think it proved how close we were to beat Leeds after being outplayed at Wembley, really, and then they were a better team at Old Trafford until we equalised, and then I think that shone through the togetherness of our team. We were behind against them 3 times in the 2 finals and come back. And then when they went behind against us, they were never going to come back, and I think that was a lot to be said for that Chelsea team. And I think that was a key to success in them couple of years. But the wheels fell off, obviously, when he sold me and the other fella.
Yeah, unbelievable to fund the East Stand. But after your Cyprus game, when Supermax scored 5 goals and allegedly, and Alan Hudson says, read that and weep, you bastard, read that and weep, which is one book, but it's not in your other book. Did you get any more call-ups to England, or did they just completely disregard you, Al?
I never even got a letter from them saying I was banned.
Yeah. Yeah.
I read it in the paper myself.
Mm.
No communication with the FA. As I say, I should have had a meeting about it. They should have called me in. The FA should have called me in, and I believe in. It's not even if I was anywhere near guilty, but I'm sure people got second chances. I mean, but when you think of what the likes of Gascoigne got up to and everything else, he would. And you imagine England not picking Gascoigne,
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But I mean, we'd still got a number of games to play that year after Cyprus. We got Cyprus away. We was away at Northern Ireland. We got the home internationals, of course, there. Northern Ireland played Wales at home. Scotland, Switzerland away. In fact, Switzerland away was the only call-up that Tony Curry had for Don Revie, and then he dropped him again. Czechoslovakia and Portugal. That was pretty much it. But no more call-ups for Alan Hudson, apart from an under-23s call-up with Greenough. Quite incredible. We did reference Easter and how it was bittersweet for you. It was bitter in 1970, but on the 31st of March 1975, it was very sweet. But you'd played 2 games in London, drawn them both at Arsenal and at West Ham. You told Waddington that you couldn't play against Liverpool on Easter Monday, but a mark of genius and a mark of a man, he made that pitch fit for Alan Hudson, because he knew that if Alan Hudson played, Stoke win.
It was quite weird, really. It's I mean, we got on the train, and I think we got about half hour home from Stoke, and I went and called him over. I said something to him, and he said, "Well, leave it. Don't talk about it now. Leave it till we get back to the hotel opposite the station, the North Staffs Hotel, which was quite famous in them days." He said, "We'll talk about it in the hotel." So we got back into Stoke probably about 8 o'clock, up to 6 o'clock train, and we was in there. A few of the boys went in there. Tony was in there, and we sorted out. He said, "Well, look, don't go out to a club tonight. Don't go night clubbing tonight. Don't go out tomorrow. Keep out your local pub. I know you go on a Sunday," he says, "and have early night Sunday, and you'll be playing Monday." And I remember thinking he must know some kind of rainmaker or something like, And I went out on my lawn the next day, and there was no rain and all that kind of stuff. No sign of rain, because we had a drought in them. That we had a long drought in '85, and I remember driving into the ground. I was choked because that was one game you want to play in. It was top of the league clash as well. And I get in, and I walked into the dressing room, and I see my shirt hanging up and my boots below it, and I thought, oh, he's trying to pull one on me here, because they used to tell me how he used to do that with Stanley Matthews.
Yeah.
When Stan was a bit better, it was the only difference is Stan was 30 years older than me. But I walked down and come out, and I was going in to say, I can't play today. I was not on this pitch. The worst thing could have happened. If it had been a hard pitch, and I'd have played, and especially against Liverpool, and we'd have got beat, it wouldn't have been right, So you had to have been your chances. You're better off playing someone who's going to make it hard for Liverpool. Anyway, I got down to just right near his office, and I thought, I'll go back and I'll have a look at the pitch. And I turned back, and as I've gone to look at the pitch, I think it was Keegan, Toshak, and Ray Clements were coming up. And Ray Clements said to me, "Huddy, what's gone on here?" He says, "We ain't had no rain up there for ages." I said, "Mate, you got to live in Stoke. It's got the strangest weather up here, mate. You can't believe." I said, and that was it, and I went, so I didn't go. I don't know. I did go in his office. I went back in his office. He says, "How are you?" He didn't even blink,
Yeah.
And I said, I think I said 14 or something. And he went, "All right." And he got 14 tickets out for me, for the family who would come up from London that day. And that was it. So, I mean, I always say, how could you go on the field that day and not want to put your best performance on for that fella? It's just the way I am, I suppose. But you know, he didn't do it for me. He didn't do it for him. He did it for the team. He did it He did it for everybody. He wanted us to beat Liverpool, and that was what I'm saying about someone like Revie. He couldn't care about you, This benefited everybody, and by bringing a fire brigade in was just a masterstroke, really, And it was, I don't know. I mean, we had two hard games down at Arsenal and West Ham, 2 games prior. We drew them both. We should have won them both. We were playing well. And I suppose he thought, well, no, we're playing well, but what we do if we don't play, which is it's common sense, really. So Dave Sexton wouldn't have thought of doing that. I remember Tommy Docherty done it once. Someone told me he'd done it at Chelsea. Cloughy did it, didn't he?
Yeah, Cloughy used to do. I think he got that from Waddington. He done that after 1975, of course, at Forest, because he took over. What was it, 1970? I think it was 75. He took over, didn't he? And then
wasn't it a European team, Paul?
He used to. Yeah, I got an idea. Was it Cologne? And
I think it was
the city ground was heavy, and he watered the pitch. But I think he done it a couple of times, Cloughy. But again, he probably got it from Waddington because they were good mates, wasn't they? Them two.
They were. He kept it secret as well. Tony. I was very close to Tony, even closer later on, but never mentioned anything about that. And it wasn't until I kind of didn't even suss it when we played Ajax in the UEFA Cup, and we played the second leg over there in Amsterdam, and Cloughy was sitting in the corner on the same flight, and I thought, what's he doing over there? And the photographer come over to me and he said, would you mind having a photo done with Mr. Clough? I said, yeah. So I went over and he kind of put this book down and looked at me. I sat next to him, took the photo, and just when I'd had to talk to him, he said, you can go back to your teammates now. Just fucked me right off. So I thought, that's great, isn't it? That's great. And it wasn't something to dislike or like it for. It's just the way he was, I found it quite amusing. And I kind of found out later that Tony used to go on all the away trips with Nottingham Forest.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And Derby, obviously. Yeah, he went he used to, so that's how close they were. So, but it's you couldn't get two people such chalk and cheese, and they would have been like like Taylor and Clough. I mean, talking about England management, they would have been two people they would have crushed the world. I think them two together, with their football knowledge and different ways of approaching things. The old good cop, bad cop thing, Now,
Cloughy, the greatest England manager that we've never had, Tony Waddington, I'm guessing, Al, as well, would have been the perfect England manager, wouldn't he? Either of them, if they'd have been manager of England in the 70s, I'm sure that we would have qualified for a World Cup finals. And with the talent that we had, I'm sure that we could have gone on and won a tournament.
I think in them days, even when he had Ron Greenwood come in and Joe Mercer came in, I think we had probably half a dozen managers around at that time before the tracksuit managers come in. But I've got to say that Tony would have been, because I've never played for the others and never experienced that. So, but all I can say is that I've had enough players of, when you look at Docherty, and then Sexton, and then Tony. Had a couple. I was at Stoke when Mick Mills was there later on. Terry Neal, Revie, Ramsey. So there's quite a few big names there, and not one of them could hold a candle up. The only two people that treated me like Tony was when I went to America. And I played for Alan Hinton and Jimmy Gabriel at separate times, and they were exactly the same because they knew what I was all about. I remember Alan Hinton wrote in his book about me. He said, He said he used to like a drink. He said, I've been round his house to parties. He said, I've been out with him, with our wives and everything else. He says, and he come in Monday, he looked like, he'd been on right on one. He says, and Tuesday, he came in, he looked a little bit better. Wednesday, he looked a little bit better. He said, but Saturday, he would walk in like he was Beau Brummel. He said, he's all dressed up, going out for a night. He said, and then he'll play, and you'll think, how on earth did he do that? And that was because he knew if you treat someone well enough, that's what I'm talking about, the drinking part of it. I was doing that at Chelsea in the early days, and it was great. It was great fun, and we laughed about it. But it was the injury that messed me up. But when I always say that a happy footballer is a good footballer. If you're happy in what you do, then you're doing it right. And I was certainly happy there with him, until I broke my leg that day after. I think it was someone told me once I played 80-something consecutive games till I broke my leg.
I think it was 89 games. Although
89, yeah.
I think you missed a League Cup game. It may have been the Halifax game or the Ipswich game, I'm not sure. Because in that season, Jeff played 50 games, you played 49. So there was one of those games, but combined, you did play about 89 games for Tony Waddington. And again, your first game was against Liverpool. And your last game for Chelsea was against Liverpool.
Yeah.
Sort on My Life, My Music about Seabiscuit, how that racehorse was broken down and you were broken down. You fallen out of love with everything at Chelsea. And Tony just believed in you. And that's all you needed, to be loved and to be believed in. And when he did, my word, didn't he get the results from Alan Hudson? 105 league games. You was in the 2 seasons that you were there, Team of the Year in both seasons, the best midfield player by a mile. George even said that about you when you were banned by Ramsey. Again, a case of if only, Alan, how important and how integral management is. And it's a theme that runs through My Life, My Music, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah. Everything about it comes down to management. It's no doubt about it. Even years and years ago, or 50 years ago, and even today, it's the same now. I mean, the modern game, look at Chelsea, they've gone from Frank Lampard and John Terry and Peter Cech and Ashley Cole and Arjen Robben and people like that to what they are now. And it's all down to management.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Nothing else. It's nothing to do with them upstairs.
Again, you look at bringing it up to the modern day, you look at PSG, Luis Enrique, what a job he's done. He's got rid of those players, your Mbappe, your Neymar, your Messi. He's brought in great players, and they look, for me, the best team on the planet at the moment. I mean, that duo, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, I mean, he couldn't even get in the bloody Wolves team. It's incredible. But again, I think Enrique has been a great manager and a manager that you'd want to play for. And that's just half the battle.
Well, I think he kind of played that way himself, didn't he? He
did, yeah. Yeah, he did.
But getting back to PSG, I kept thinking to myself, where's this fella come from, this duo, when they brought him on? When he came to the side, I felt cool. I said, he's a good-looking boy. I thought, he looks like he's got some class. And his first 3 or 4 touches, oh, mate, what was it all about? And then he took the last penalty well, and the last penalty, he just went like that. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So,
I think he's only 20 as well, isn't he? He's only a young kid.
Yeah.
The ball loves him. The camera loves him. I think everybody loves him. And if Villa do beat Belgium tonight, they're going to be in Birmingham in a few weeks' time. And hopefully I might be able to get down to Villa Park and watch Paris Saint-Germain.
Well, that'd be something, mate. Yeah, that'd be something. I just hope they continue, go on and win it. And I mean, I did last night. I wanted them to win last night. Not that anything against it. I'm a bit of a Liverpool man, only because of Shankly, but football's all about wanting the best team to win it. They deserve to win it this year as well, especially they nearly never qualified, did they?
Not sure. Not sure.
I don't think they nearly qualified. They got through the skin of their teeth, I think.
In that group, you're right. They did struggle up to a certain point. I think they won the last game, and then they qualified. And I think that's what Arne Slot was moaning about, the fact that they come top and then ended up playing Paris Saint-Germain. But you're right, they did have a real bad time early doors. But again, it's
I don't know what he had anything to complain about.
I don't really.
What's going on over there? Christ almighty, he should have given the game over there. I mean, if it was a boxing match, he'd have thrown the towel in, wouldn't it? It was just unbelievable, the game over there.
Yeah, it was.
And the commentators had the audacity last night to say they've been a bit unlucky tonight, Liverpool. Christ almighty.
They've never seen the game last week in Paris. But again, you're right, Al. Football is entertainment. It is art. And when you get entertained, you want to watch them again. And that's why I like to watch Paris Saint-Germain, because they never fail to deliver the highest quality of football and play with a swagger that is what football is all about. What you got in there, mate? Vodka and orange?
I have my daily. I have it in the mornings. If I didn't have it today.
Oh, okay. I've got me Alan Hudson mug here. Chris hasn't done me a tea, but you might be able to see that on camera. Our mug, Alan.
I've got one, haven't I?
Yeah, you have, yeah. He provided the magic when they gave him the ball. That pretty much sums up Alan Hudson. Huddy, it's been an absolute pleasure again. The week that was, we've covered that. We've covered most of what's happened in March. But sadly, your father passed away as well in March, didn't he? And I remember you telling me the story of Phil Collins when he's recording A Groovy Kind of Love. That was the day after. And then young Georgia, your sister's daughter, was born. And Anthony was born as well in March, wasn't he? March is quite a month for the Hudsons.
It really is, yeah. It was. Our Georgia, my sister's little girl, she's really. It's something weird about her. She's just too strange. I call her the special one. I said, don't worry about. I sent her a message on her birthday last week or 2 days ago and said, don't worry about Jose Marino. You're the special one. And I said, but it's been a pretty bittersweet time, because I get reminded every 37 years it is, and it's quite hurtful, like with anybody. But that is it's uncanny, isn't it? Getting off that, I was reminded it today at Cheltenham. Did you know anything about Cheltenham today?
I know that there's horse racing on, Al, but I'm not.
No, they had the kid that died, 24 years of age.
No,
He died, the Irish boy.
Oh, right.
And he jockey and
today.
No, he died not so long ago, a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And today, the first race at Cheltenham was named after him yesterday.
All right.
Only 24.
Oh, no.
And the horse that won the big race today was the horse he won the big race at Cheltenham on, and his mate rode it today, and he would have been riding it. And then the horse that won the race after, he rode at Cheltenham and won on it. And he rode these two horses who won 2 races at Cheltenham in one day. He rode them both on one day, a few years ago.
Wow.
And he's still only 24. I mean, that's been the talk of all day. Ain't life weird? How something weird happens. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know anyone whose father or parent or anyone in the family has died the same day.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was he was a family man. He just couldn't wait. My sister was the apple of his eye, and he couldn't wait for her to have you know, this young granddaughter, and my sister was come out from having the baby, and said my dad would be, you know, over the moon. He's at work, he's over the moon, and I was on a train coming down from London because I had the doctor called me. But it's weird, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
every year, you know, it's not even a celebration, is it?
No, not at all. No. I mean, a wise man, a great broadcaster, once said, "There isn't anything that hasn't happened to Alan Hudson apart from being abducted by an alien." And I'm guessing as it was, it'd be March, wouldn't it?
There's still time.
Al, it's been an absolute blast and a pleasure as always.
It's great to see you. You know, one of these shows.
Fantastic to see you as well.
You can't see me, Al.
I mean, it's the first one that we've done together where we can see each other. And pass my love on to Matt Letizia and Tony Jimenez, because you do some great podcasts with Tony on the Alan Hudson podcast.
He's got a lot to learn.
Have you, as Tony Adams, have you sorted that out yet?
No, I've left a message for him to get back to me. I'm going to have to find another way.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure. And who else have you got coming up, Al, just before we leave you? Anyone?
We've got a couple in the pipeline. We've done one with a fella called Neil Barnett last week. He was that was quite interesting. You know, he's Chelsea mad, and he used to introduce the players on the field and do the pre-game entertainment and all that. I wanted to, you know, I had him on because he's a nice fellow, but I'd like to know how they let him go, and they let him go pretty much the same as they let me go.
Yeah.
They told him, you know, we're not replacing you with anyone. And the following day, the fella that they replaced him, we phoned him up, and he says, "Neil, we've got to tell you." He said, "I know we know each other." He said, "But I'm having your job." So nothing really changes.
Nothing.
So it made me feel a little better. That line alone. I said, "Oh, there's not just me, is it?"
No, everybody in football. It's just the way it is. Nothing ever changes. Al, thank you so much for your time, mate.
Well done, mate.
And we'll do another one in about 4 weeks' time.
All right, mate. Whenever.
A lot of your career in my life, my music. So, guys. Once again, thanks for watching, and good night and God bless. Cheers, Huddy.
Good night.
Good luck, mate.
Thanks, Al. Cheers.